Then I want to share with you what some more psychos are saying. Ted Cruz, the sitting governor of Texas, Greg Abbott. And it's not just in this country that the Christians are out of their fucking minds. A group of vaccine protesters in London tried to storm the offices of the BBC yesterday, but they had one big problem. They had the wrong address. Oh, God. I mean, what happened to Christians? Seriously, what the hell happened to Christians? I don't know what has happened, but the insanity of these people is about as obvious as it could possibly be. If they walked around, people like Ted Cruz or what's his name, Rand Paul, if they walked around with electric signs around their necks, neon lights that with arrows pointing that said, "This guy is crazy," it couldn't have been more. It couldn't be more obvious. Rand Paul and Ted Cruz. Cruz from Texas, Rand Paul from Kentucky. And both of these monster morons are denouncing these health mandates against the virus. And this happened at a time when the United States is recording its highest single day number of new cases since last January. On Monday, health officials reported nearly 160,000 new cases, which pushed the 7-day average to 115,000 daily. And that was the most severe day for new cases in this country since January 29th, according to the Washington Post. And that was when coronavirus vaccines were not widely available. I think old people got them then, but nobody else. And hospitalizations are also up to nearly 70,000 people who are in hospital right now, some in ICU, some intubated. All because businesses and schools don't know how to respond to simple goddamn common sense about mask mandates or a mandate to be vaccinated. Get your goddamn vaccination or go live in a fucking cave until this is over. How dare you walk around, you germ-encrusted bastard, infecting anybody that comes near you because you feel it's part of your freedom? And the son of a bitch Cruz, this Christian fascist, told the Christian fascist Sean Hannity on the Fox sewer that no health regulations are needed. They're just not needed to try to stop this surge that is being fueled by this very transmissible Delta variant. And the fact that there are millions of Americans, about 100 million, who remain unvaccinated. Cruz told the little shit Hannity, quote, "There should be no mandates, zero, concerning COVID. That means no mask mandates, regardless of your vaccination status. That means no vaccine mandates. That means no vaccine passports." End quote from the medical expert and Christian Nazi. This guy goes way beyond Christian fascism. He's a Christian Nazi. His call for no coronavirus mandates of any kind came a few hours after he and another Christian fascist, a real sick fuck named Kevin Kramer, senator from North Dakota. These two fascists introduced two bills that would ban mask and vaccine mandates. Oh yeah, you have no hope at all of getting that passed through the Senate or the House, either one or both. But you little bastards, this is your way of getting reelected, right? The measure would countermand recent guidance from the CDC And that recent guidance recommends that people wear masks inside, regardless of your vaccination status. I mean, you know, I've said a million times that I figure I'm 80% normal, just mainstream, run-of-the-mill American citizen. The other 20%, 10%, I feel like I'm above the norm. And the other 10%, I feel like I'm below the norm. That's how I justify my existence, my opinions, my thoughts. Okay, Mike, you're 80% mainstream. You're 10% out of your fucking mind and 10% out of your mind in a good way. So if that's the case, though, why are so many millions of Americans refusing a mask mandate? Do these people refuse to put their seatbelt on when they get in the car? Do they? Do they refuse to renew their car insurance? I mean, those are requirements from state governments. What's the difference between wearing a mask and wearing a seatbelt? Oh, never mind. Don't go that way, Malloy, because you're trying to talk rational ideas to morons. I don't mean you, truth seeker. I don't mean my audience. You know what I mean. So here's the situation. After all the promotion, only half this country is fully vaccinated. So the Biden administration is trying to take a more aggressive approach. And they're trying to push Americans to get the goddamn shot. Biden has told federal employees that they must get vaccinated, or they'll have to wear masks and maintain social distance at work. And now the military has been directed to similar steps. Secretary of Defense issued an order per Joe Biden that everybody in uniform will be vaccinated, with a few exceptions. And the Secretary of Defense sent that order through the chain of command, and he's given the various military organizations, I think, until November, to come up with the organizational plan of how it's going to be done, how quickly it's going to be done, and that will give the FDA time to fully approve at least the Pfizer vaccine. And once it's fully approved, there will be no fucking reason whatsoever for any member of the military to refuse a lawful order, and it will be a lawful order. Now, obviously, if certain members of the military refuse to do this and have a good reason, they will be counseled. They will be counseled by their superior officers. They'll be counseled by medical personnel to explain to them the importance of it. If they still refuse, and the reasons are valid, they'll be given an exemption. The Washington Post reported that the Biden administration is in actually the early stages of reviewing ideas about whether to use federal regulatory power or the threat of withholding funding as added ways to get private entities to require vaccines. Do you see what's going on? We are such a fucked up country that the federal government has to consider withholding funding in order to get people vaccinated, whereas certain states like Florida is threatening to withhold funding to school board members if they try to interfere with the spread of this vaccine. This is like living in a goddamn asylum. And you take Cruz's home state, Texas. Texas is experiencing a rise in new infections that is now placing limits on the availability of hospital beds. Not just ICU, hospital beds, period. A Houston hospital system is now preparing huge tents to treat an overflow of patients. While a doctor there, according to the Washington Post, said intensive care units in Houston resemble, quote, a war zone, end quote. And the state of Florida is now averaging more than 13,500 new cases a day. They are second to the crazy fucker who runs Florida. Florida's number one, Texas number two, in the number of people getting sick every day, the number of people dying, the number of people being intubated. But hey, nobody gonna tell me to wear a mask. No, sir. And Cruz accuses Joe Biden of, quote, Cruz reads off the same sheet of music as this Florida bastard. But Cruz accuses Biden of, quote, imposing unscientific and burdensome mandates. Oh, my God. I wonder what Cruz would consider more burdensome. Having a fucking tube shoved into down your goddamn throat, into your bronchioles? Is that burdensome, Ted? Is that more or less burdensome than wearing a fucking mask? Huh, Ted? Jesus. So the Christian fascist Ted Cruz joined the Christian fascist Rand Paul in denouncing mandates, even though both of them are aware of this incredible resurgence in cases and hospitalizations. And Rand Paul, who has now fashioned himself as the chief skeptic of Anthony Fauci. Rand Paul, what is he, a fucking dentist? What is he? A dental technician? Where did he get the doctor? A doctor of what? So he's challenging every chance he gets. He challenges the facts, the truth, the medical expertise of Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci was working in allergies and infectious diseases when Rand Paul was a goddamn mewling, squalling baby. Oh, man. Rand Paul said this. I mean, listen to this shit. He released a video Sunday that urges people to ignore the regulations implemented by health experts and elected officials to help prevent the spread of the Delta variant. This is in part what he said, quote, it's time for us to resist. They can't arrest all of us. They can't keep all of your kids home from school. They can't keep every government building closed. Although I've got a long list of ones they might keep closed or ought to keep closed. Oh, go fuck yourself, Rand Paul. Get up on one of those cliffs in Kentucky and jump. I mean, Jesus, what a waste of DNA he is. Coronavirus cases in Kentucky are up by 50% in the past week. And almost every county in Kentucky, according to the CDC, has, quote, high community transmission, end quote. But there's this Ayn Rand loving, Atlas Shrugged bullshitting Rand Paul saying, I know some buildings that ought to be closed. School districts in Kentucky have expanded virtual classes again. They're offering virtual classes as well as in person in Jefferson County public schools. That's Louisville. Data show that nearly 53% of the more than 95,000 students in the district will not be old enough to be vaccinated. That's according to the Louisville Courier-Journal newspaper. 53% of these students are not old enough to be vaccinated. And Rand Paul wants them to wander into a schoolroom and risk their fucking lives because he, don't you know, is a libertarian. He's a goddamn Christian fascist. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.